Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Ryan Kook, lead developer behind Vilous to the North and founder of Project Freelance Games. This is the monthly update, the monthly Patreon update for April, just to show where the project's at and to talk about all the things that have been going on in the background. Unfortunately, in the game itself, the aspect of game development, not too much has been going on because I've been distracted heavily with schoolwork, lots of schoolwork and actual work. So I really haven't had too much time to work on Villa Soldier of the North. But I have done a few things um, to improve, currently what currently exists in the game. What I'm planning on doing next is working on circle placeholder models, and I'm going to be working on basic animations, so I'll be able to replace this guy with a placeholder character, and he'll have his own custom animations that'll be motion captured by me, cleaned up by me and all that. But that's going to hopefully be in next month's update. As for right now, um, if you guys remember, this is our friendly AI lead bot. I can go up here to simulate, and if we watch, what this guy does is he just runs a patrol. He just runs around here, and how he does that is he determines whenever he spawns in the world, he figures out what the closest patrol route would be. So, say there's this one over here that he's currently on, and then maybe there's one all the way over here that just runs in a circle. Since he's closer to this one when he spawns, he'll detect that this is the patrol route that he should be on. So he'll go over to the nearest waypoint, find what the identification number of that waypoint in the patrol route is, and then start running around sequentially to the next waypoint until he gets to the end of the route, and then return to 0, and just keep going around and around. If he spawned over, say, here, then he would probably go over to this patrol route and do the same thing with whatever the closest waypoint is. So if we hit stop, you remember the error that was showing up down here in the previous video? That has been fixed. If I can get my content browser open to show you guys what's going on. Right now I'm on my second monitor. Okay, so this is the find next waypoint task that the bot executes every time that he gets over to a waypoint. He runs through this to figure out what the next waypoint should be, and then goes to that waypoint and repeats. The problem was that when I put this all together, I really didn't know what was going on. This is my first experience working with artificial intelligence. So, everything was just kind of jerry-rigged together with some tinfoil and string I had laying around. But there was a problem. I think it was over here. There was a problem where this would run through, and a value that needed to be compared to, the next route number and the last number of the waypoint that's at the end of the sequence. There was no value that could be returned for that, and just make things simple and to move along, I figured out a way to fix that. So now everything's a bit more solid too. So we can see that he's running around when we press play, and he's a bit more solid in the decisions that he makes. So although it's still not perfect, there are still some little instances where something will go wrong. You can see that he still figures out, this is where he was interrupted. We ran him around. He lost sight of us, and then he returned to where he was interrupted on the patrol route, and then continued back, looping through his points. Like I said, there are a few things that are still a little broken, that I need to figure out. Like if I'm, moving away and I'm in the air, he doesn't sit there and wait like he's supposed to. He immediately turns around, and then he might go to the next waypoint. He might come back over to the interruption point. He might, make it halfway through and then decide to go to the interruption point. If we interrupt him again, he might go over there. I was talking to another one of my developer friends about this, and what we think the problem might be, you can see, as we're running around, he's testing to see where he last saw me, and that's what those red lines and those red and green lines and those red squares are. So what we think the problem is he's pathfinding his way over to where I am, even if he, quote unquote, loses sight of me, and then he does what he's supposed to do. But if I run and jump out of there, the problem is that I don't think he can pathfind up to this. There's like a certain radius that he needs to be within to accept that he is at that point, a certain tolerance. So I should be able to fix that, and that should be all figured out by the time the next update rolls out, in next month's update. But as you can see, anything else aside from that, he's working pretty good. Same thing if I walk off the edge. He just goes back to his patrol route because he can't pathfind his way over here to where I was in the air. Also, if you've noticed, when I was, playing around with that guy over there, as soon as I started sprinting, the player begins to both increase and decrease speed once they start and stop sprinting a bit faster, so it's not as much of a build up to running at full speed, and the sudden change in head bob is also kind of smoothed out by that. By a more sudden change in speed, I should say. These were covered in the major update video that I posted the last paid content release, that did an overview of absolutely everything that was currently on this project. I've made some optimizations and I've changed some things, but these are different particle effects that I have. So over here, yeah, I've got some rain going, and this is a particle effect. As you can see, it is a hybrid of CPU-based rendering and GPU-based rendering. The CPU-based rendering is a little more expensive, but that only occurs around the player. And what that allows us to do is, as you can see, each one of these little raindrops, as they hit the surface of this rock, they have a little splash and particles spawn off where the particle impacts, or I should say where the initial particle impacts, any sort of mesh. It could be the terrain, it could be one of these props, it could be a static mesh like this, it could be a character. So that's all handled on the CPU. And then as we get out further, just so we kind of have that extra depth, you see we look over here at the ground, you don't see any of those raindrops splashing, they just kind of fall through the ground. That's just so, the player starts over here, any direction that they look, they'll see a whole bunch of rain, no matter where they look. Over here we have a snow particle effect. Heavy snow particle effect, so there's a lot of different particles that fall, and they fall a little faster than I actually have a second version of this, light snow particles, which they fall slower and there's slightly fewer of them. And same thing with the rain, it's just it doesn't fall as densely. The next thing we have is some smoke. I don't know if I highlighted this in the last video, but I have made some very good optimizations to it. I've practically doubled the performance and doubled, how, in my opinion, how good the smoke looks. So you can see over here, these are actually all sprites, but with the way that it's rendered and the particle system is set up, it almost seems like it's volumetric smoke, but it's not. They're all sprites. Smoke also works, it can also accept light, and it can also cast shadows too. So you can see over here, our sun is over here somewhere generally, because we can see we have some heavy shadows over here. If I turn down the cloud density, you can see a little easier that all the shadows are over here because the sun's up over here. So we can see if we look at the smoke right now this way, see it's light, fluffy white smoke. Well, if we go over here and look up at the sky, it gets darker. And that's because it's blocking the light that's actually going through it. Up over here, nice light fluffy smoke. Down over here, dark smoke because the light is being blocked by it. Each of these smoke particles as well are actually animated. The materials are animated in themselves. So right now we're in the particle editor, cascade particle editor window. And if you look, dog's gonna fucking bark at fucking probably the tree outside. It's windy outside, so the tree's moving. So right now we're in the particle editor inside of Unreal Engine 4, and we're looking at the smoke particle effect that I just showed you. And if you look closely, say over here, each one of these little smoke particles, each one of these little sprites that are spawned by the emitter, they're actually animated. So that creates a better kind of sense of like rolling smoke, like it's actually billowing up. It's not just particles moving linearly. Like there, that's a really good view of the shading of the light with the particle effect. How the shadows are cast from the particles themselves. But we should also be able to open up the material itself, and we'll be able to see how the smoke is animated. So that right there is one unlit particle, and that's what it looks like, throughout time, whilst it goes about its life. So, like I said, unfortunately there hasn't been too much stuff going on in Engine. That, again, is due to schoolwork and work that's distracting me from that. I don't want to say, they're more important, but they are. And if I had a preference, I would work on this all the time, but priorities gotta be priorities. There are some other things that have been going on in the background, and in addition to creating these monthly update videos, I'm also going to be talking about things that are going on in the background, different statistics that are going on. So I'll cover that right now. So, like I said, things going on in the background. I'm using Evernote to keep track of this stuff. As you can see, I'm keeping track of the amount of Patreon supporters that we have, if that's up or down from the previous month. Patreon income, how many Discord users we have on the Project Freelance Games Discord server, which right now there is going to be a link that shows up on screen, and I might be able to do something with a card if you're watching this from YouTube. I think embedded players might be able to do it too. I haven't really played around with cards too much, but right now there's a little pop-up in the top corner of the screen that says, like, visit Project Freelance Games Discord server or something like that. So I'm keeping track of the users there, how many followers I have on Tumblr, and how many YouTube subscribers that I have. I really didn't have a baseline of, what to go off of because I haven't been keeping track of this. But Patreon supporters, we've got 3 right now. That's awesome. We have, that's one up from last month, which, like I said, I'm keeping track of this just based on, what's been going on this month. I don't have anything to compare the numbers to. So we're up 1 Patreon supporter. And that Patreon supporter is actually giving us $11, which is, amazing. That brings us up to a total of $19 per development cycle, which I'm actually planning on, getting another piece of technology too, which I'm going to go over after this, which is going to, that's all going to be funded by Patreon, and that's all going to be funded by PayPal donations and stuff. Discord users we're up to, so that's a total of 22. Tumblr followers, Tumblr followers 166, and YouTube subscribers on the Project Freelance Games YouTube 39. Expenses, I got this new software called Mirroring 360. If I go get my iPad right now, where is it? Okay, got that. So anyway, Mirroring 360, if I start up my iPad right now, and I swipe up, there's a feature called AirPlay, and what Mirroring 360 allows me to do is use the AirPlay feature and stream my iPad video right now. Stream my iPad video directly to my desktop. You can see I can turn the screen like this, so it just looks a little better on the recording. And, literally I can do anything here and it will be streamed and broadcast to my desktop. Now, what are the uses of that? Say, I go over here into my art application. I'm like, hey, here's this, concept art I'm working on. What I can do is I can, actually show this as part of the development process of me working on concept art. Say I have something I want to explain. Say, got, oh gosh, I don't know what kind of pen I got going on. Say, we got our circle character over here, whatever, cool. Looks beautiful, right? Yeah. Make him a stick circle. And tail poof. There we go. So, draw diagrams and say, picks up this item and that goes into their inventory. I don't know, I'm just scribbling stuff up right now, but that's what the use of that's gonna be. So if I'm doing a live stream and I want to explain something or I want to draw out a diagram, I'll be able to do that. Other things that I have listed here, particles, we went over that in the, we just went over that previously. Behind the scenes, we are using a tool called FreedCamp. And what this does is it allows me to, better manage who's on the team and what all their little tasks are. So you can see over here, here's things that we have yet to do. Here are things that are being worked on, and things that have been completed. So if I, go over here, say, I think this is probably a good one, artificial intelligence. I get information exactly on what I have to do for the artificial intelligence, and move that over to the working on, move that over to the completed category when that's done, and this just keeps track of everything and makes it a lot more organized and easier for everyone on the team. We can set email reminders for when things are due and stuff. We also have a new development team member, Mace Sergal. You may know him from Reddit. He's working on his own Sergal language, Sergal written language, and that's going to be found in the game actually. He's doing translations for the survival handbook that you're going to be getting. You're going to do translations for signs and anything else that's going to have text in the game pretty much. Animations and NPCs, talked about that briefly too. So this next thing uh, what I was talking about, what we're going to be purchasing with the Patreon funds, excuse my squeaky chair, is a tool that's been developed by Neoglyphic Studios. I apologize, Neoglyphic Entertainment. It's called Neofur. I'm sorry I keep hitting the mouse around. But what it is it's an amazing solution to rendering fur in real time in video game environments. So we're going to be using that to outfit all of our characters. The Neverians, we're going to give them feathers using this technology. The Sergals are going to have long flowing hair. They're going to have, short little fluffy hair. They're going to have nice tail poofs, all that kind of stuff. And over here, some example materials that we'll look through. These are features, and then that room back there is just practices, like best practices. We start over here. You can see how good that fur looks. I can't get too close to it because they have some kind of blocking volume there. But this is an example of how, the fur going to look once we put it in the game and put it on our characters. How it can move dynamically with how the character moves. And they just have a whole bunch of different examples. And this one really isn't even a fur. I think how they advertised this was like a carpet, like some kind of a rug. So you can see right there, right there, just look at the bottom. It doesn't need to be used for fur. It can be used for a wide array of applications. And like over here, we start to get into some weird stuff. I'm not really too sure what I would be able to do with this, but it's there. The possibility's there to use it. Here, this is sort of like a fin kind of thing. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it's very interesting to see. Same thing over here. Kind of seems like aquatic, like gills, kind of. Reminds me of some kind of like coral, underwater something. That right there, that's really showing the physics of, the movement and the physics that each one of these, technically strands of fur, shows the physics of them. This is just showing that you can have multiple materials, because you can use different furs with different materials, so it doesn't all have to be one uniform length. It doesn't have to be all one it doesn't have to be all one uniform color. So you can see, it's blocked out over there on these lighter blue colors, and where the fur is, that's pretty obvious. Some more interesting jiggly shapes. This one reminds me of feathers, and that's why I said, we're also going to use it for Neverians, because I mean that looks really good. Over here we can see different features. Here's the fur actually put on a moving character. And you can see that just looks really good. how everything moves and just bends with him. Got a little bit of a spring from, the movement that he has. Over here saying that the fur also works with the wind forces that we can have. Unreal Engine 4's wind assets. You can see that fur blows around and stuff. Forces, works with forces. Can be applied to dynamic objects. And this is just going through other features of like, growth splines and growth meshes. LODs. Morph targets. There's something cool over here too. It has a Neofur supports shadows. So if we go over here, this little spotlight turns on, and you can see that this is obviously not casting shadows, and this is casting shadows. You can just see that on the back wall too. It also casts shadows on itself, which is pretty neat. So that's currently what's going on with the Vilous Soldier to the North. Like I said, a lot of the stuff is background work, because I haven't had a lot of time to actually work on the game itself. Hopefully that's going to change. I say that hesitantly. But yeah, I plan on having a lot more content released in the next month's update. So everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. I'll see you guys in the next video.